Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Elias Ward had learned something important about alien power structures over the past 3 years. They never shouted. The shouting always came later, after decisions were already made. The chamber of accord was silent in a way that made Elias' skin itch. It was vast, circular, and perfectly balanced, as if symmetry itself had been voted into law. Tiered platforms rose like steps of a frozen storm, each holding delegates from species that had ruled star systems long before humanity had figured out faster-than-light travel. The air carried no scent, not sterile, not clean, neutral. That was worse. Elias stood alone at the center of the chamber on a smooth disk of pale metal. No podium, no restraints, no guards close enough to be obvious. That, too, was deliberate. He adjusted his jacket, more out of habit than comfort. It was standard human diplomatic wear, plain, dark, and intentionally unimpressive. Around him, some delegates wore living armor. Others shimmered with biolite or mechanical precision. One species seemed to exist half a second out of sync with reality. And every single one of them was watching him. Elias reminded himself to breathe. He was not a general, not an ambassador, not even officially important. He was a systems analyst, which apparently was exactly why he was here. A voice echoed through the chamber. It did not come from any one direction. Elias Ward, human designation confirmed. The sound was layered, translated through dozens of systems at once, each tuned to make the words understandable without making them familiar. "You have been summoned," the voice continued, "as a representative example." Elias frowned slightly. An example of what? A pause followed. That pause was not hesitation, it was calculation. "Of the anomaly," the voice said. The words settled into the chamber like dust after a collapse. Elias felt his stomach tighten. He had known this was coming. Humanity had known, deep down, from the moment the first joint trade route stabilized instead of collapsed, that someone would notice. Still, knowing something was inevitable did not make standing in front of it any easier. "I assume," Elias said carefully, "that you're referring to human expansion patterns." A soft ripple passed through the chamber. Some delegates shifted, others went still. "Incorrect," the voice replied. "Expansion is common, aggression is common, collapse is common. Humanity exhibits none of these at expected levels." Elias blinked. That's usually considered a good thing. Another pause. "From your perspective," the voice said. A new projection bloomed in the air above the chamber. Lines of light formed maps, star systems, trade lanes, borders. Elias recognized some of them. Others were ancient, long before humanity's first radio signal. The lines changed color. Where humans had settled, the map softened. Conflict markers dimmed. Piracy zones shrank. Resource scarcity indicators stabilized. Political volatility flattened into manageable curves. Elias felt a quiet, creeping unease. "You see a pattern," the voice said. "Yes," Elias admitted. "That's kind of my job." "Explain it." The request was not a demand. That made it worse. Elias took a slow breath. "Humans don't optimize for dominance," he said. "We optimize for survival." A low murmur rippled outward. "Clarify," the voice said. "Most species," Elias continued, choosing his words carefully, "develop systems that work when conditions are ideal. Strong leadership, clear hierarchy, efficient control. That works until something breaks." He gestured gently toward the projection. "Human systems assume something will break, always, so we build backups, redundancies, failsafes, social ones too." The projection shifted again, highlighting human settlements. "You do not conquer," the voice said, "yet influence spreads." "We don't isolate problems," Elias said. "We absorb them, share them. That makes them smaller." One of the delegates leaned forward. Its form resembled a lattice of dark crystal threaded with light. "Your presence destabilizes established power," it said. "Ruling structures fail." Elias nodded, because they were brittle. That answer caused the first real reaction. Several delegates reacted sharply. One emitted a pulse of color that translators flagged as alarm. Another curled inward defensively. "Brittle structures shatter when stressed," Elias said quickly, realizing he had stepped closer to something dangerous. "Flexible ones bend. Humans learned that the hard way." The chamber darkened slightly, not threatening, focusing. "Your history," the voice said, "is marked by near-extinction events." "Yes," Elias said, repeatedly. "And yet you persist." Elias allowed himself a small, tired smile. "We're very bad at giving up." The projection changed again. This time, the markers were red. A cluster of star systems near the outer rim pulsed erratically. Energy flows spiked and collapsed. Civilian population indicators flashed warning symbols. Elias' smile faded. "A cascade failure is underway," the voice said. "A regional network collapse, multiple species, high probability of systemic panic." Elias felt a familiar tightening in his chest. Not fear, focus. "That's bad," he said. "You are here," the voice continued, "to explain why this outcome is more likely in proximity to human systems." Elias stared at the projection. Then he shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "it's not." The chamber reacted immediately. "That region integrated human logistical frameworks 6 cycles ago," Elias said. "They adopted our redundancy models without adapting their social ones." The crystal delegate leaned forward again. "Explain." "You can't just copy the structure," Elias said. "You have to copy the assumptions. Humans assume failure without blame. Your systems punish it." The lights dimmed further. "The collapse is accelerating," the voice said. Elias inhaled sharply. "Then arguing about blame is a waste of time." Silence. That silence was heavy. "You will not issue commands," the voice said. "You have no authority." Elias nodded. "I know." "Then explain," the voice said, "why we should allow you to act." Elias looked up at the chamber, at beings who ruled fleets, species, histories measured in millennia. "Because," he said quietly, "humans don't wait for permission when people are about to die." A sharp intake of breath echoed from somewhere in the chamber. Before anyone could respond, the projection shifted again. The collapse spread. Emergency signals flared. Civilian evacuation probabilities dropped below acceptable thresholds. The voice spoke again, slower now. "What would you do?" Elias closed his eyes for half a second. Then he opened them. "I'd open civilian channels," he said. "All of them. I'd flood the network with clear, boring information. No heroics, no commands, just steps." The crystal delegate made a sound of disbelief. "That would cause panic." Elias shook his head. "Silence causes panic. Information gives people something to hold onto." The voice waited. "I'd reroute human supply chains," Elias continued. "Medical first, power stabilization second, food third, we can spare it." "You would weaken your own systems," the voice said. For a while, Elias agreed. "That's what buffers are for." A long pause followed. Then, without ceremony, the chamber shifted. New data streamed into the projection. Human network access codes unlocked. Emergency coordination nodes activated. Elias exhaled slowly. "They're letting me try," he murmured. The voice spoke once more. "Your actions will be observed." Elias nodded. "Fair." He turned his attention fully to the unfolding crisis. Hands moving through holographic interfaces that bloomed into existence around him. Human protocols activated automatically. No banners, no declarations. Just work. As messages spread across the failing systems, something unexpected happened. The panic curves flattened. Civilian movement stabilized. Medical response times improved. Delegates began whispering to one another. "This should not work," one said. "It is inefficient," said another. Elias didn't look up. "It's human," he muttered. Minutes passed, then more. The collapse slowed. Not stopped, not solved, but slowed enough to breathe. The projection updated. Survival probabilities rose above critical thresholds. A strange hush settled over the chamber. "You have not seized control," the voice said. "No," Elias replied, "I just shared it." The crystal delegate spoke again, quieter this time. "You do not dominate." "No," Elias said, "we connect." The voice fell silent. Then it spoke with something new woven into its tone. "Uncertainty. This inquiry is not concluded," it said. "Humanity's influence remains unresolved." Elias finally looked up. "That's okay," he said. "Most things worth fixing are." The chamber lights brightened slightly. The anomaly had not been explained away, but it had been demonstrated. And somewhere in the vast machinery of the galaxy, a troubling question had taken root. What happens when a species does not try to rule, but simply refuses to let things fall apart? The galaxy did not calm down all at once. That was the first thing Elias Ward noticed. Human systems had slowed the collapse, stabilized the most fragile points, and restored enough structure to prevent mass death. But the tension remained, stretched thin across trade lanes and political borders like a cable pulled too tight. Stability, Elias knew, was not the same as trust. The chamber of accord remained dimly lit as updated projections hovered above the circular floor. Delegates spoke now, no longer in hushed tones but not openly either. This was the sound of old certainty cracking, one careful word at a time. Elias stood where he had before, arms relaxed at his sides, eyes slightly tired. He had not slept. Human emergency protocols did not care about time zones or comfort. Messages had flowed through him for hours, requests, confirmations, quiet thank yous from worlds he would never see. He had answered all of them. The voice that governed the chamber spoke again. "The immediate crisis has been reduced," it said. "Casualty projections have fallen below extinction thresholds." Elias nodded. "Good." "That is not a conclusion," the voice continued. "It is a delay." "Yes," Elias said, "that's how recovery starts." A delegate from a militarized species shifted forward. Its armor plates clicked softly, a sound translated as irritation. "You interfere," it said. "You stabilize systems that should collapse. That delays necessary evolution." Elias looked at it calmly. "Or it prevents unnecessary death." The delegate's eyes narrowed. "Your species assigns moral weight to survival." Elias considered that. "We assign weight to people." A ripple passed through the chamber. Another delegate spoke, this one tall and thin, its body wrapped in shifting data skin. "Your presence correlates with loss of central authority." "Yes," Elias said. "You weaken rule." "No," Elias corrected gently. "We weaken fear-based rule." The voice rose slightly, a signal for focus. "Elias Ward, your actions demonstrate a consistent pattern. Humanity does not conquer, yet influence expands. Humanity does not command, yet compliance follows." Elias exhaled slowly, "Because people copy what works." "You believe your methods are superior," the voice said. Elias shook his head. "No, I believe they're compatible." Silence followed. Then the projection changed again. This time it showed history. Civilizations rose and fell in accelerated time. Empires burned bright, then vanished. Alliances fractured. Species disappeared entirely, their last signals swallowed by static. Humans appeared late in the sequence. Small, fragmented, chaotic. Yet they did not vanish. You should not have survived, the voice said. Elias smiled faintly. We hear that a lot. Your planet experienced constant internal conflict, the voice continued. Resource scarcity, environmental instability, ideological fracture. Yes, Elias agreed, still does. And yet, the voice said, your species adapted. We learned something early, Elias said. What? That no system stays perfect, Elias replied. So blaming people when it fails is pointless. A murmur spread through the chamber. The armored delegate spoke again. You excuse weakness. Elias turned to face it fully. No, he said, we planned for it. The voice fell silent. That silence was different now. Less judgment, more listening. You have demonstrated crisis response, the voice said, but the concern remains. Humanity alters the trajectory of civilizations without consent. Elias frowned slightly. We don't force integration. No, the voice said, they choose you. Elias did not respond immediately. Instead, he looked at the projection, at the worlds that had stabilized, at the ones still struggling, at the ones now watching humanity with something like hope. That's not something you can forbid, he said finally. People choose what helps them live. Another delegate spoke, this one old, its form slow and heavy, like a living monument. Then what are you, it asked, if not rulers? Elias swallowed. We're neighbors, he said. The words seemed to echo. The voice responded slowly. Neighbors share space, they affect one another. Yes, Elias said, that's unavoidable. And when neighbors disagree. Elias met the center of the chamber. Then you talk, or you build fences, or you learn. The armored delegate emitted a harsh sound. And if they threaten you? Elias' expression hardened, not with anger but with clarity. Then, he said, we protect each other. That caused a reaction. Several delegates shifted back, others leaned forward. The idea was unsettling. You claim collective defense without hierarchy, the voice said. Yes, Elias replied, it's messy, but it scales. The projection updated again. New data appeared, unintended consequences. Regions near human space showed increased cross-species cooperation, hybrid councils, shared infrastructure, fewer wars. Less central control. The voice spoke quietly, you are changing the galaxy. Elias nodded once, so is everyone else, we're just honest about it. The chamber stirred. The voice continued, there are proposals. Elias felt his shoulders tense slightly. Containment, the voice said. Restriction of human expansion, controlled integration. Elias did not react outwardly, but something tightened inside him. And he asked. There are counter-proposals, the voice said. Observation, study, adaptation. Elias waited. There is also, the voice added, uncertainty. Elias let out a slow breath. Welcome to the human condition. A faint sound rippled through the chamber. Some translators flagged it as amusement. The voice spoke again. One final question remains. Elias nodded. Ask. If humanity does not seek control, the voice said, what do you seek? Elias closed his eyes briefly. He thought of Earth, of messy cities and broken systems and people who argued and helped anyway, of networks built by tired engineers who assumed someone would make a mistake and planned for it. He opened his eyes. We seek continuity, he said, not perfection, just the chance to keep going. The chamber was very still. Then the old delegate spoke again, and if others follow you. Elias smiled softly, then maybe fewer of us disappear. The voice fell silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its tone had changed. This inquiry is concluded. The chamber lights brightened. Humanity will not be contained, the voice said, nor elevated. Elias felt his breath catch. Human systems will be recognized as a stabilizing framework, the voice continued. Voluntary integration only, no coercion. A wave of reactions passed through the delegates. And, the voice added, a new classification will be entered into galactic record. The projection shifted one last time. Humanity, stabilizing species. Elias stared at it. That sounds heavy, he said. It is a responsibility, the voice replied, not a crown. Elias nodded slowly. Good, crowns make people forget how to listen. The chamber began to dissolve, delegates withdrawing into light and shadow. As the space emptied, the voice spoke once more, quieter now. You may go, Elias Ward. Elias hesitated. What happens next? The voice paused. The galaxy adapts. Elias smiled tiredly. We'll help. He turned and walked away as the chamber faded behind him. Elias returned to human space without ceremony. No parade, no announcement. Just a small room on a rotating station, and a console full of messages waiting to be answered. Some were questions. Some were requests. Some were simple notes of thanks. He answered them all. Outside the station, trade lanes shifted subtly, not dramatically, just enough. New councils formed. Old powers adjusted. Some resisted. But systems changed anyway. Because once people learned they could survive failure without punishment, they stopped being afraid of trying. Years later, historians would argue about the moment the galaxy changed. Some would point to wars, others to treaties. A few would mention a quiet human in an empty chamber who never raised his voice. Elias never read those accounts. He was busy doing what humans always did best. Fixing what broke, sharing what worked, and refusing stubbornly to let everything fall apart. And,